I pull into my driveway, the low hum of my black Dodge Charger cutting off as I shift into park. It's been a long shift at the precinct, 12 hours of chasing down leads, breaking up domestic disputes, and filing endless paperwork. But the moment I step out of my car, breathing in the crisp evening air, I feel that familiar sense of peace. Home. The neighborhood is quiet, just how I like it. Rows of pristine houses line the street, each with neatly trimmed lawns and mailboxes that all look the same. It's the kind of place where people wave politely but keep their distance, where community is more of a concept than a reality. I moved here for the peace, the anonymity. No flashing lights, no sirens, no chaos. Just me, my house, and my driveway. But not everyone sees it that way. I notice it the second I step onto my porch. The way Mrs. Thornton across the street quickly looks away, pretending she wasn't just watching me. The way old man Fisher hesitates before pulling his garbage bin back from the curb, his eyes lingering on my car like it doesn't belong here. Like I don't belong here. I'm used to it. Being one of the only black homeowners in an HOA-run suburb means I get the looks, the hesitant smiles, the double-checking. I've seen it before, when I first moved in and got a friendly reminder about the HOA's landscaping rules. When my younger brother visited and someone called security because a suspicious man was walking up my driveway. I shake it off. It's not worth my energy. Just as I turn to unlock my front door, I hear it. A sharp, clipped voice that grates like nails on a chalkboard. Excuse me. I don't even have to turn around to know who it is. Karen. Of course, that's not her real name. It's something else. Susan? Linda? It doesn't matter. She's the self-appointed queen of the HOA, a middle-aged woman with a stiff blonde bob and the permanent expression of someone who just sucked on a lemon. She's the type who emails complaints about trash cans being 1 inch out of place and measures grass length like it's a federal crime. I slowly turn, keeping my face neutral. Evening. She marches up my driveway like she owns it, arms crossed, nose wrinkled. Her eyes flick to my car, then back to me. We have rules in this neighborhood, she says, voice dripping with condescension. I arch a brow. I'm aware. She points at my Charger like it's a pile of garbage. That vehicle has been parked here for over 24 hours. HOA guidelines clearly state that all cars must be moved regularly. We don't allow abandoned vehicles in driveways. Abandoned? I almost laugh. Instead, I keep my voice even. That's my car. And I just got home from work. Her lips purse. Really? I know what she's implying. I know that look. My jaw tightens, but I don't bite. Not yet. Really, I say. She huffs, glancing at her watch like she has somewhere more important to be. Well, I'll have to report this. We can't have people ignoring the rules. And just like that, she turns and strides away, heels clicking against the pavement. I exhale slowly, shaking my head. It's small. Petty. Just another reminder that, to some people in this neighborhood, I'll always be watched. Always questioned. I don't know it yet, but this is just the beginning. Karen isn't done with me. Not by a long shot. The next morning, something feels off. I step outside with my coffee, the steam curling in the crisp morning air. The neighborhood is its usual picture-perfect self, lawns edged with precision, driveways spotless, not a single out-of-place trash bin in sight. But there's something else. A weight in the air. Then I see it. A white tow truck, idling at the end of my driveway. My brows furrow. I take a slow sip of coffee, watching. The driver stays put, hands on the wheel, eyes locked straight ahead. He's waiting. For what? A movement to my left draws my attention. Karen. She's standing a few houses down, arms folded tight across her chest, lips pressed into that same sour expression. She's pretending to be out for a morning walk, but she's not fooling anyone. Not me, at least. I set my coffee down on the porch railing and walk toward my car. The second I move, the tow truck lurches forward, rolling up the driveway like it has a mission. My pulse kicks up. I step between my Charger and the approaching truck, raising a hand. Whoa, hold up. The driver, grizzled, sun-worn, leans out the window. You the owner of this vehicle? I narrow my eyes. Yeah. Why? He sighs like I'm the problem. Lady over there. He jerks his thumb toward Karen, says this car's abandoned. HOA ordered a tow. Abandoned. I grind my teeth. Karen steps forward now, her smile thin and smug. Oh, don't make a scene. It's standard procedure. Vehicles left unmoved for extended periods. I drove it last night. My voice is steady, but there's an edge now. She blinks, feigning surprise. Oh, well, I had to report it. It's hard to tell with certain cars. Certain cars. I know exactly what she means. This isn't about the HOA. It never was. This is about me. About the fact that, in her mind, my black Dodge Charger is out of place here. That I am out of place here. I take a slow breath, reining in the heat rising in my chest. Tow truck's not needed, I say evenly. You can go. The driver hesitates, looking between me and Karen. Karen huffs. I already filed a complaint. If you want to dispute it, take it up with the HOA. I step closer, lowering my voice just enough. Oh, I will. For the first time, something flickers in her expression. Not fear. Not yet. But uncertainty. Like she just realized she may have picked the wrong battle. The tow truck driver mutters something under his breath, shifts into reverse, and backs out of my driveway. But Karen doesn't move. She just stares at me, tight-lipped, eyes sharp. This isn't over. I can feel it. I don't let things sit. That same afternoon, I march straight to the HOA office. The building is small, tucked between a nail salon and a dry cleaner in the strip mall just outside the neighborhood. The moment I step inside, the scent of stale coffee and printer ink greets me. A receptionist, an older woman with reading glasses perched on her nose, barely looks up. I need to speak to whoever filed a complaint about my vehicle, I say, voice steady. She glances at her screen, then sighs. Name. I give it to her. She types slow and deliberate. A few clicks later, she squints at the monitor. Says here, your car was reported as an abandoned vehicle. HOA regulations require vehicles be moved within a 24-hour period or risk removal. I fold my arms. My car wasn't abandoned. I drove it the night before. She shrugs. That's not what our report says. I lean in slightly. Who filed the complaint? She hesitates. Then, like I already know, she says it. Karen Lockwood. I exhale slowly through my nose. Of course. I glance at the screen. I want to see the full complaint. She hesitates again, then shakes her head. HOA policy doesn't allow homeowners to review reports filed against them. Convenient. I stare at her for a beat, then nod. All right. I turn to leave, but before I step out, I glance over my shoulder. Tell Karen she messed with the wrong person. 2 days later, I get a violation notice taped to my front door. It's about my trash cans. They were left out for an excessive amount of time. Except they weren't. I pulled them in the same morning the garbage truck came, just like I do every week. But I know what this is. The next day, I get another. This time, it's about my lawn. Grass height exceeds the HOA mandated limit. I stand in my front yard, holding the paper in my hand, staring at my neatly cut grass. It's no different from my neighbors. And yet, here we are. Karen isn't just doubling down, she's waging a war. I see her, too, watching from her porch, pretending to water her already perfect flowers. She's smiling just a little. She thinks I'll back down. She thinks she can make me uncomfortable enough to leave. What she doesn't know. Bye. I don't scare easy. I start gathering proof. I set up a camera on my porch, angled to capture my driveway and the street. If Karen wants to lie, she won't get away with it. I also start talking to neighbors, to the delivery drivers who make their rounds, to the local landscapers who know every lawn in this place. And it doesn't take long to confirm what I already suspect. Karen doesn't do this to everyone, just the people who don't fit. Mrs. Nguyen down the street tells me Karen tried to fine her last year for having unapproved decorations during Lunar New Year, while other houses had wreaths and flags without issue. The Johnsons, a black family a few blocks over, got multiple warnings about unauthorized gatherings every time their relatives visited for cookouts. Pattern. Clear as day. Karen is using the HOA as a weapon, a tool to control, to exclude. I file my own complaint, detailing the harassment. I include timestamps, dates, and testimonies from neighbors who've also been targeted. And then I wait. 3 days later, I get an email from the HOA. My complaint has been reviewed and dismissed. Insufficient evidence. I stare at the screen, jaw tight. Karen got to them first. Of course she did. But she still doesn't know who she's dealing with. Because while she's been playing HOA politics, I've been collecting something better than paperwork. I've been collecting proof. And soon, I'm going to flip this whole thing on its head. 3 days later, I hear the truck before I see it. That low, mechanical rumble rolling down the street. I step onto my porch, coffee in hand, just as the tow truck rounds the corner. Same one from before. It rolls past a dozen other cars parked in driveways, all untouched, until it stops right in front of my house. Right in front of my Charger. And there, marching down the sidewalk like she's leading a parade, is Karen. Clipboard in hand. Chin high. That same smug smile plastered across her face. She thinks she's won. I take a slow sip of my coffee, watching. Waiting. The tow truck driver climbs out, barely glancing at me. He's got a job to do, and as far as he's concerned, I'm just another homeowner getting a rude awakening. He moves toward my car, reaching for the tow hook. That's when I speak. You touch that car, and I'll have you arrested for unlawful vehicle seizure. The driver freezes. Looks up. Blinks. What? Karen scoffs, stepping closer. Oh, don't be ridiculous. This vehicle has been marked for removal. You've been warned multiple times. I pull out my phone. One tap, and the footage plays. Crystal clear security footage of my Charger. Sitting in the same driveway it's always been. Time-stamped recordings showing it being driven. Moved. Parked. Proof, undeniable, that Karen's abandoned vehicle claim is a lie. Karen's smile falters. I tilt my head. Want to explain how my abandoned car was driven multiple times this week? She recovers quickly, puffing up like a bird trying to look bigger. This isn't about one incident. You have a pattern of disregarding community guidelines. The HOA has authority here. I cut her off. No, Karen. You have been targeting me. And not just me. I turn my phone screen toward her. Swipe to the next video. Interviews. Statements. Footage from other homeowners, Nguyen's, Johnson's, even a few white neighbors who've noticed her selective enforcement. A pattern documented. Racial bias, thinly veiled behind the HOA's rulebook. And I'm not done. I reach into my pocket and pull out my badge. Because here's the thing. Karen never asked me what I do for a living. She just assumed. And now, she's realizing her mistake. I'm a detective with the city's Special Investigations Unit, I say calmly. Which means I know exactly what abuse of power looks like. Karen goes pale. The tow truck driver takes a slow step back. Whoa, hey, listen, I was just called for a job. I didn't know. I glance at him. You're good. You're free to go. He doesn't hesitate. He's back in that truck and pulling away in record time. Karen, though? She's still standing there, floundering. This is absurd. You can't just accuse me of. I don't have to accuse you, Karen. The evidence speaks for itself. I take another sip of my coffee, letting the weight of it sink in, letting her feel it. She opens her mouth again, but this time, a new voice cuts in. Ms. Lockwood. We both turn. A suited man steps onto the scene, one of the HOA's board members. I recognize him from meetings, but today, his expression is different. Tight. Controlled. Because he's seen the same evidence I just showed Karen. And now, the HOA is scrambling. He clears his throat. We've received some troubling reports regarding discriminatory enforcement of HOA policies. He shifts uncomfortably. Effective immediately, your position on the HOA board is under review. Karen's face crumbles. What? He nods. A formal investigation will determine if any violations have occurred. In the meantime, any pending complaints you've filed are being dismissed. My lawn, my trash cans, my car, all of it gone. Just like that. Karen's hands shake. This is a misunderstanding. I was just trying to maintain the integrity of the neighborhood. I let out a short laugh. Yeah, well, now the neighborhood gets to decide what your integrity is worth. I turn to head inside, but pause at the door. One last look at Karen, standing there, watching as everything she built crumbles around her. You really should have done your homework, I say. Then I walk inside and shut the door. Karen doesn't go down quietly. I knew she wouldn't. The moment the HOA board member delivers the news, she shifts gears fast. Her face goes from pale to red, her breath coming out in sharp bursts. She's calculating, scrambling, trying to find a way out. This is ridiculous, she spits, turning on the board member. I've been nothing but dedicated to this community. I was just enforcing the rules, our rules. The man sighs, adjusting his tie. Ms. Lockwood, we've received multiple complaints that suggest otherwise. Karen's eyes dart to me, blazing with fury. You set this up, didn't you? I fold my arms. You set yourself up. She scoffs, shaking her head. You think a few exaggerated statements and some conveniently cut video clips are enough to prove anything? This is a witch hunt. I won't stand for it. And then, her trump card. She straightens, pulling herself together, her voice suddenly composed. I have friends on the HOA board. People who actually appreciate what I do for this community. She lifts her chin. I'll have this overturned by the end of the week. For a second, it's almost impressive. Even when backed into a corner, she still thinks she can power through with sheer arrogance. But she has no idea how deep this goes. I glance down the street. A small crowd has started gathering. Neighbors peeking out from porches, some stepping onto sidewalks. The kind of people who usually pretend not to notice drama. But this is different. This is Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, being publicly challenged. And then, the final nail in her coffin arrives. A sleek black SUV rolls up. City government plates. Karen frowns, confusion flickering across her face as the door opens and a woman steps out. Sharp suit, clipboard in hand, expression unreadable. I smile. Because I called her. Ms. Lockwood? The woman asks, striding forward. Karen's frown deepens. Yes. The woman flips through her papers. I'm Rebecca Lane, an investigator with the County Fair Housing Commission. We received a formal complaint about discriminatory housing practices in this neighborhood. Karen's mouth opens, then closes. She blinks. I don't know what you're talking about. Rebecca doesn't flinch. Multiple residents have reported targeted enforcement of HOA policies based on race and ethnicity. We have sworn affidavits, along with security footage that corroborates these claims. She pauses, letting it sink in. A full investigation is now underway. Karen laughs. It's high-forced, bordering on manic. This is absurd. You can't just investigate me. I've done nothing wrong. Rebecca tilts her head. Then I'm sure you won't mind us reviewing all HOA records for the past 5 years. The color drains from Karen's face. Because she knows. She knows what they'll find. The pattern of fines. The selective enforcement. The countless anonymous complaints all mysteriously tied to homeowners who don't look like her. Her perfect little HOA empire? It's crumbling. No, she breathes, shaking her head. This isn't happening. This is a setup, some kind of revenge plot. You did this to yourself, I say, stepping closer. Her eyes snap to mine, filled with nothing but rage. I keep going. You thought you could weaponize the rules against people who didn't fit your perfect vision of this neighborhood. I gesture toward the growing crowd. But it turns out, the neighborhood sees you now. A murmur ripples through the bystanders. Some nodding, some whispering. Because the truth is out. Karen backs up, chest rising and falling in short, panicked breaths. I'll fight this. I'll sue. Her voice cuts off as her phone buzzes in her hand. She glances down, reads, and suddenly she's shaking. I don't even have to see the screen to know what it says. Her friends on the HOA board, the ones she thought would protect her, they just threw her under the bus. Self-preservation always wins. Rebecca Lane clears her throat. We'll be in contact, Ms. Lockwood. In the meantime, I suggest you prepare your records. Karen doesn't respond. She can't. She's frozen in place, her entire world unraveling in real time. And me? I just take another sip of coffee. Justice, it turns out, tastes pretty damn good. 2 weeks later, Karen Lockwood is no longer the head of the HOA. Her reign of terror? Over. And the best part, she didn't step down voluntarily. She was removed. The investigation unearthed everything. The years of selective enforcement, the fraudulent complaints, even some shady financial transactions where HOA funds mysteriously benefited her projects. Turns out, Karen had been playing fast and loose with the rules for a long time. And now she's paying for it. Literally. A civil rights attorney has already contacted several homeowners, including me, about a potential class action lawsuit. The HOA board, desperate to avoid legal fallout, threw Karen under the bus so fast she probably didn't even see it coming. They issued an official statement distancing themselves from her actions. Translation: Karen is on her own. No more HOA power. No more fines. No more bogus violations. Just a disgraced, exposed woman sitting in the ruins of the fake authority she built for herself. I see her a few days later. She's on her porch, but it's different now. She's not watching, not patrolling like some self-appointed enforcer. She's just there, small, unnoticed. A few neighbors walk past without acknowledging her. Others send pointed looks, their silence saying more than words ever could. The queen of the HOA is now nothing more than a cautionary tale. And me? I'm enjoying my damn peace. I park my Charger in the driveway, take my time stepping out, and stretch like I don't have a care in the world. Because I don't. I feel her eyes on me, but I don't look her way. She doesn't deserve my attention. Instead, I glance across the street, where Mrs. Nguyen is putting up decorations for the Mid-Autumn Festival. This time, without fear of fines. A few doors down, the Johnsons are setting up for a family barbecue. The smell of charcoal drifts through the air, and someone laughs, a loud, unbothered sound. It feels different now. Lighter, like the whole neighborhood is breathing again. I step inside my house, close the door, and let the peace settle in. Karen thought she could control this community. But in the end, the community fought back. And we won.